Hello, everybody, and I'm glad that you decided to invite us here. I'm Antti, designer from Finland, and this is Katja. Katja, say something about yourself.
Well, Katja is originally from Lithuania, but now I live in Finland and do fun stuff. I used to do agile coaching, now I stopped, and you basically will see from the presentation how we got a little bit bored with usual conferences talks and decided to do something different, even though we knew that it's a agile conference.
Yeah. So we saw the keynote, and Alistair mentioned that the Finns have been like getting more talkative during the 2 years here. I don't know if that's true with me, but let's see how I do today. So hopefully I'll be talkative. So
we're going to talk about the journey from idea to value. Originally, when Vaidas pinged us, he asked us to talk about how to sell Agile to your boss. Or basically, when we started to think about it, we thought that, okay, maybe we should concentrate on like communication between developers and managers and business people and think like
people with different backgrounds.
How do we improve that? Mm-hmm. The more we thought, the less we wanted to do that talk. During the last couple of years, I've been attending quite many Agile conferences, and the more I attended, the less new ideas I picked up and the less excited I was about like topics, because they were looping basically the same angles of the same topics with a little bit different words. So everyone knows that we should like build stuff, we should think about people, we should think about like system, we should think about communication and about the process. There are talks about Kanban and Scrum and Agile coaching and
yeah, but we decided
TDD, all the like development practices.
But we decided to focus more on the user experience side of things, or remind everybody that we need to think about that too, and that the final value is not in the process, but what you actually deliver to the customer.
So we are going to talk more about like how to build the right thing, keeping in mind that of course we all know or are learning how to build it the right way. And also we're going to talk about cakes.
Yeah. So let's imagine this situation. There's a new bride, she's getting married for the first time, hopefully the last time too. And she has this idea of the perfect wedding cake.
I'm sorry.
The idea of the perfect wedding cake. And all the wedding is going to be like amazing, and of course the cake has to be perfect. There's going to be the whole family. So she has this idea in her head, and it might be something like this. I picked this picture, so I don't know if this is a perfect wedding cake or not, but like maybe some females can answer that. Or men, I don't know. So then we have another character. He's the best baker, the best maker of cakes. Maybe he lives here in Vilnius. He's very respected in his field. He has lots of customers, and well, basically he's doing the best cakes.
So the lady did the research. She, of course, asked the friends. She figured out who she's going to go and order the cake. She had all the trust that the best cake maker won't ever fail with her order. She asked him to bake a cake. Unfortunately, she was so busy with other stuff that she actually didn't have enough of time to come and have a face-to-face conversation. She just called him. And
yeah,
well, you know.
Quickly described, and we can already see how this like communication is not going to be that good. So the end result is this. So we can clearly see that it's not the dream wedding cake, but I don't know, some people are falling off the top, and I don't know what's happening, but this is not the dream cake she wanted.
It is the
yeah. So
wedding cake gets delivered the day before the last day. So basically, there is no time to rebake the cake. She has to face it. She has to go with an ugly cake, and the whole like idea of the perfect like ritual cake cutting is like broken. She's upset. So on the wedding day, cake tastes wrong. So we can't move the wedding day.
The deadline is fixed. You can't move it. The cake is just wrong. So there was a huge risk. It became a reality, right? It happens with software projects too. yeah.
We build something, the result is shit. So what happened?
So there was clearly we can think of the baker. There was a risk buildup. He just took this phone call from this woman. She described the cake in some way, but there was no further communication between them. And then as the baker just baked the cake all this time, the risk was building, and the result was the horrible disaster cake that we saw.
So what else could have happened?
So the other scenario can be that the dough and the shape of the wedding cake are okay. So the baker got that right. The cake is fine, but it came with birthday decorations for some reason. There was something wrong. So what does this
mean in practice? That process on its own actually doesn't necessarily create value. If we ship something in the little pieces within like iterations, we do it right way, every single piece is perfectly designed, tested, definition of done is done. So we have one piece, another piece, third piece, fourth piece. When we have to map them, we don't necessarily get the puzzle correctly, even though every single piece was perfect. So basically, we shouldn't only concentrate on the process, but always keep in mind what is our end goal.
And then the cake has newlyweds on a swing. Also, there's a unicorn and a kitten. So what happened in this scenario is that the baker got a little bit excited and he started building unneeded features to the cake. And this is another anti-pattern that we can see that you should
Actually, yeah, there was a research done by a Standish group which actually proved that up to 45% of like software applications features are never used, and only 7% of the features delivered to production are always used. The rest of the like percent is just rarely used or more or less often used. So only 7% of the features are always used. So we should think actually about what we build, for whom we build, and do not build unneeded features.
Yeah. So another thing that could have happened in this disaster scenario is that the top of the cake fell on the newlyweds while they were cutting the cake ritually. So in this scenario, the woman ordered a very, very tall cake. She wanted to impress everybody, of course, because you're getting married once. And you want to do that. And when they were cutting it, it fell down. And the baker didn't say anything because he just wanted to please the customer, make this super tall cake, make this an awesome wedding.
Right. So the end result, baker delivered the stuff. He made the order happen. But he actually didn't deliver what the customer needed. But to look it from the other side, customer has this situation once. She doesn't know anything about it. She just wants to impress the people and like have something awesome. Looking awesome, maybe not thinking that much of practicalities and stuff. The baker, on the other hand, is the expert of his field. So he faces this situation like daily. He bakes so many cakes, he can predict what are the consequences, what are the risks, and maybe without being too pushy, communicate his expertise and advise like what is the actual need rather than the want of the customer without maybe getting him offended.
So in this case, the baker really needed to be the expert instead of listening to the customer blindly. So what does all this cake stuff mean? Of course, all this is a very thinly veiled metaphor for software projects and how things can go wrong.
And when speaking about anti-patterns, it's actually so easy to speak about any area outside the software development because it happens everywhere. Communication fails. So there is this Finnish IT writer who came up with this awesome communication like laws and rules. Basically what he says that if there is a possibility that communication will fail, it will. Like the second thing he states is that if there is a way to interpret the message in like several ways, it will be interpreted in the worst possible way. And the third thing we picked up, he actually has the huge list of that, that whatever you talk, there is always someone who knows better what you meant. So any possible misunderstanding will happen, and it will be most probably the maximum. If the listener is interested enough into a topic, he will definitely shoot back with the feedback, which would not be that soft, as the research of the Jukka Korpela says. So, fine.
This is something that we need to just accept. The communication is not going to work, it's going to fail. So, how are we going to prevent this?
Well, we can't make communication be perfect. We can think of the ways to make it maybe better, considering the individuals, their personalities, the basic patterns, the culture, the mentality, the language barrier, and so on. I don't know, I think that applies equally well with like your mom working for some government, or us working in the software industry, or like the baker baking his cake. So this is just a thing to remember. So communication fails, but yeah, we still want to build stuff. And
to build stuff, what do we need? So we need a vision. We need a strong vision to what we are building. We need a
let's say we have it. Let's say we have it. We're like organization which cares, which tries to improve daily, improve continuously, is interested in the practices and like motivating people and stuff. They also have their product vision. They have their process. They do Scrum, Kanban, Lean Startup, Agile, Magile, continuous delivery, all the good practices, development practices and stuff. Well, you know. They have a bunch of talented people. They are like motivated and interested to build stuff. They are willing to learn and get better at what they do. Yeah. So, is that enough?
Is that enough to know that we are building the right thing?
So nowadays there is like a huge buzz about the lean startup movement and delivering value. People getting a little bit bored talking about the process, and they want to concentrate more about what are we actually building for who, and like what is the value of the stuff we do. People talk more and more about like business model generation and business canvas and customer development. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that as well. So let's talk about the business model, Antti.
So the business model generation book says, a business model describes the rationale of how organizations create, deliver, and capture value. So that's pretty simple, pretty standard business school stuff.
So, and as we all know, Agile is also just a mindset, value-driven mindset, basically. So we always aim to deliver the features which have the highest value first, and we try to prioritize, refresh, split our stories, like plan it in a way that we deliver value and not the features like the waterfall would say. But maybe it would make a sense to actually take a little bit different look at it. So what is the business model? We'd like to show you a little video which describes pretty cool what business model actually is.
Yes. And this is in a book called Business Model Canvas.
Business model generation, it's called.
Business model generation.
organization's business model can be described with 9 basic building blocks: your customer segments, your value proposition for each segment, the channels to reach customers, customer relationships you establish, the revenue streams you generate, the key resources and key activities you require to create value, the key partners, and the cost structure of the business model. But it's not sufficient to just enumerate the 9 building blocks. What you really want to do is to map them out on a pre-structured canvas. This is what we call the business model canvas, a tool that helps you map, discuss, design, and invent new business models. Let's briefly go through the 9 building blocks, starting with the customer segments. These are all the people or organizations for which you're creating value. This includes simple users and paying customers. For each segment, you have a specific value proposition. These are the bundles of products and services that create value for your customers. The channels describe through which touchpoints you're interacting with customers and delivering value. The customer relationships outline the type of relationship you're establishing with your customers. The revenue streams make clear how and through which pricing mechanisms your business model is capturing value. Then you need to describe the infrastructure to create, deliver, and capture value. The key resources show which assets are indispensable in your business model. The key activities show which things you really need to be able to perform well. The key partners show who can help you leverage your business model, since you won't own all key resources yourself, nor you perform all key activities. Then once you understand your business model's infrastructure, you'll also have an idea of its cost structure. So with the business model canvas, you can map out your entire business model in one image. This works for startup entrepreneurs just as well as for the most senior executives.
So yeah, that is the business model canvas, and you should definitely look at it. So now we have a vision and a shared understanding. We've made the business model canvas. Everybody is on the same page.
Shall we talk a little bit more actually about how we make the business model canvas?
Yeah.
So it's pretty healthy in any organization to actually gather different people and try to create this business model table from the scratch, just playing around with post-its, letting people express their ideas. So, okay, what are other customer segments? How are we going to reach them? Like, how are we going to earn money? How much will it cost us? Just generate some ideas through the post-it notes. It makes sense probably to build more than one, compare them, because there is very little probability that you will do the right thing from the first time. You have to refresh it and see how it goes.
And it's also that you need to take in everybody from the company. If you're doing this inside your organization, take everybody, take the developers, take the producers, take everybody to do the business model canvas to get like fresh ideas from everybody. And
so usually it goes the way that like business people figure out some business model. They're not necessarily communicated to developers. Maybe they do if they're good leaders. In most of the cases, I believe they don't. But in order to have a common understanding and shared goal, it's pretty healthy to play this game. It doesn't take much. It takes, what, an hour, 2 hours workshop, and people get to express their ideas and maybe actually refresh even the business people mindset with their like stuff. But is that enough? So, as Steve Blank said, that no business model survives first contact with the customer, which basically means we have to get the contact to the customer as early as we can.
So the business model canvas will not save you because your business model will not survive the first contact.
So yes, you will fail. You have to like face it and don't be afraid of it. And the only question is when you're gonna fail. But failure is not a bad thing. It basically like empowers us to learn and improve. And basically the faster we fail, the faster we refresh our business model and like learn more about our customers, build more awesome stuff.
So fail fast, fail often, fail cheap. You want to push in the same way that you do with your code or with your app design. You want to push your business plan to the test, really like stress it, put it out there. You want to try and fail your business plan so you can learn from that and then revise it, and refresh it.
And the key to success nowadays seems to be maybe not the ability to fail faster, but the ability to learn faster than the others do from your failures. So the faster and the smarter you react, the more advantage you have among your competitors.
And this week's Saturday is actually the International Fail Day, so feel free to fail.
By the way, like it is the day we have like our Finnish Agile conference. So I guess it's mandatory for it to happen. So yeah.
So how do you fail fast then? You start with the minimum viable product.
So minimum viable product has only those features, the minimum set of features for the product to be deployed and no more. You get as early as you can on the market. There are like early adopters, people who are interested in the new stuff, who will try it out. And this segment, these are the people, the customers who are actually willing to give feedback. So we have to use that. And this is basically the way for the teams building the software to like get the quickest customer feedback. So they do minimum stuff, they validate it for their customers like with the least possible effort. They build up like some sort of prototype, maybe not even all of the features work, but they see how it like goes, how it feels, and then like react immediately. So that's the basics. So this is the quote from Wikipedia defining the MVP, the minimum viable product. So it is an iterative process of idea generation, prototyping, presentation, data collection, analysis, and learning. So that's basically all we need to do to learn and do our customer development and improve immediately, like to learn faster than the others do.
So what would be the most minimum viable product we can think of? It actually goes very deep because you don't even have to build the feature that you're trying to test. So there have been examples of web stores putting a new feature on the menu, but not implementing it at all. And when the user clicks it, it just asks you, would you like to pay for this feature? So
like
this
if we would have had this feature, would you pay for it like 50 euros or something? It was Mark, I think it was Mark McNeil talking on Scan-agile who gave this example. It was pretty good. It is so cheap and so fast to build. You just add one like button on your UI. It takes you 10 minutes, and within a week, you actually get an idea of if you should like spend time and effort on building it or not. And like maybe you put some more choices there and figure out what customers actually need.
Sometimes the minimum viable product can be surprisingly minimal.
Yeah, but we also have to remember that minimum viable doesn't mean crap. We have to like build desirable minimum viable products. This is again Mark. He's awesome. He actually wrote the Agile User Experience book. So we picked up some of ideas from his presentation. Because there was this example about the phones. So
when the first iPhone came out, it had so much less than the competitors.
So basically, if you would take this technical specification of like Nokia smartphone at that time, it would have like mountain of features, like Bluetooth and multitasking and all this stuff, and like
multimedia messages were one that were missing from the first iPhone.
Well, third one at least. But yeah, basically they had the awesome device, but the user experience was so crappy that iPhone with their minimum viable just won all the customers. Another good example would be like me myself, who, okay, I used Nokia's half of my life. Then I got an iPhone. I was super happy user. Like, I had best ever user experience. At some point, I got a Christmas present, an Android phone. It had so much more than iPhone had. It had multitasking. I was so happy I could like keep all my applications open. And what do you think in a couple of months? I rolled back with my minimum feature iPhone because I couldn't stand the user experience. So what basically defines your sales is how the user feels about the product. So design defines the sales in a way.
So how do we then do all this? How do we create the good user experience? How do we do the minimum viable products? How do we then
How do we care about the customer, basically, so to say? Like, let's speak a little bit about the user-centered design. So, all right, we have user stories.
And the user stories are like very little features that...
well, you know what are user stories, I assume. We don't have to talk about that. So we have user stories. They help us to communicate between business people, developers, designers. They give us an idea.
One interesting point about the user stories is that the user story describes a pain point in the user. So that is user experience. So user stories should also solve a pain point that the user has.
Yeah, so basically another way to look at it would be to think of similar products and not try to, I don't know, build more features on the top of them to win the market or something, but just think about which problems customers might possibly face with those products and try to fix those problems, try to help customers to have even better user experience, even though they already like use certain product. Well, we have obviously the backlog. They help teams and business people communicate, prioritize that. That's basically the tool of the PO, like main communication tool.
And of course the backlog is ordered with the most value-bringing feature first.
We have definition of done. That's how we know if our story is done. But all right, so we have a user story grooming workshop, whatever. We have our business people, our developers. We have maybe our customers if we're lucky.
We have the business model.
We have it in mind always, yes. I would imagine. So what else could we do to trigger more ideas?
So sketching is one thing that is often mentioned, that like you should sketch. So what is sketching actually? Sketching is the fastest way to communicate an idea to another person. So it can be drawing on the wall. It can also be doing some Lego building or whatever is the fastest way to communicate an idea to another person. So this is something that I would really like you to take away, is that like the sketching doesn't have to be, if you don't feel like you're drawing or something, you have to think of sketching as the
visualization of the idea, right? So it doesn't cost us anything while grooming the stories to just get some paper, get some Post-it, get some colored pens, and like try to sketch the wireframes maybe, try to think how will it look like, show other people they have some more ideas, put them on the wall, compare, maybe leave them for a couple of days, like pass them by, look at them, does it look good? No, what can we change? Just like have it there to help you generate ideas.
And another thing about sketching too is that it puts stuff on the wall. So I really encourage you to do real artifacts that you put on the wall. You have to move your desk kind of to the wall for everybody to see the sketches, to collaborate on them. So the important thing about sketches is they are collaborative, they are disposable, so you can throw them away.
If you want.
They create a history, so you can see like two sketches beside each other, so they create a history.
Shall we also explain about the user sketching then?
Yeah, so then there's this other concept of user sketching. So we think of sketching as something that you do first. You're trying to figure out a feature, you pull your team together, you do sketching. User sketching is the same concept, but you reverse it. So you already have a existing launch product, and you pick some users and you ask them to draw your application without seeing it.
So basically, like if I would ask like, all of you to say that, show me the sketch of the Amazon like web store page, homepage, or the Facebook homepage. Obviously, not everyone would remember each and every button, their layout and stuff. Maybe not all the features I use there, but the stuff you would draw first would actually be a super valuable feedback for us as the builders of an application, because that is our like minimum viable product in a way.
That is the thing that people
and that
remember.
is we have to prioritize. If like people first remember some like search button and it's somewhere in the bottom right corner, maybe it would make sense to move it somewhere up and make user experiences better. Like there are ways to play around with it and basically ask your, I don't know, non-techie people, friends, whoever might use your software to just sketch it. I would propose, for example, e-bank builders to do that more often, because Finnish e-banks are horrible. Would they ask us to sketch? Would like for free help them to build us more awesome user experiences? But no.
So yeah, sketching is anything that communicates an idea fast.
Then another way to think of ideas and play around with them and visualize them is paper prototyping. So it's basically same, but it's taking your sketches outside, right? It's not that hard if you're building an iPhone app to make some sort of like carton canvas and long paper with possible like screens, and just like swipe, pull it and push it, changing the screens and like figuring out if that is okay user experience or not, if that is okay UI or not, what is missing, what is like too much, if it's clear or not to understand.
And you can just go on the street with your little toilet paper iPhone and show it to people, and that is you're validating your idea. How long did it take? It took you 10 minutes to do this, and then you're validating your idea already without building anything. So get out of the building. This is of course Steve Blank's awesome ideas, but it's a good idea to get out of the building, start testing stuff, and also get other people than researchers out of the building, get developers out of the building.
Yeah, basically go and talk to your customers. Not only imagine yourself being a customer, but actually talk to them. So the good example, I think, was a couple of years ago, what is this? Aalto
Yes.
Yes. Basically, the Finnish university made this program for students, which was called the Summer of Startups. They got their teams who just like entered the university. They didn't have big knowledge on how to build the software. They are obviously not a business people. They didn't know how to sell stuff, how to like validate their stuff. And the coaches who were speaking to them, some experienced startup guys, the first thing they did, like this shaking geeks, not even being able to speak, they could code, and then if they had to answer some coaches' questions, they were super embarrassed. The first thing the coaches did with them, they just made them go to the biggest like shopping mall, observe their customers in the different situations, how they choose the products, what are the different customer segments, like ages, like pickiness on the product, go talk to them and ask all the questions before they even like touch the code. So that doesn't cost you anything. It can even happen by accident if you just go shopping yourself or like appear in some sort of discussion. But you validate the ideas, and that is important. So
do customer development, talk to people, validate your ideas. Get the ideas as fast out as you can, and really like test them, push them, try to break them. And you also need to continuously refresh your business model in this way, and you are, when you're taking your prototypes out there, you're also refreshing your business model.
So basically, market is changing rapidly. Your business model is supposed to follow the market. If it's not able to change as fast and like be constantly refreshed and iterate, nothing cool is going to happen. You can like do your have your agile practices in place, iterate, build the user stories, but if the business model is not being refreshed, nothing good gonna happen. So the feedback, Antti.
So also you should encourage inside your team for people to give feedback and get feedback. Finnish company Futurize is doing this really well. They have a weekly meeting where they are like enforced to give feedback to each other or to everybody in their team.
Well, I don't know if like that is such a good idea. Would you be honest if you would be enforced? But yeah, I guess with time you learn. If you have to like suffer from some like horrible colleagues, you're gonna learn to rephrase the stuff and give the feedback. But also give feedback, ask for feedback that not only relates to your own like internal company stuff and organization, but also the customers. So go ask for feedback from the customers, speak to different people, get as much feedback as you can and react. Like also probably it's a good learning to learn how to receive the feedback, because not everyone is able to receive the bad feedback, not well phrased feedback. While receiving that, you probably will rethink your own way of giving feedback and actually realizing how much the feedback drives you to improve your own stuff. You will also like more often give feedback to other people. So yeah, make feedback loops as short as possible. That is clear. The shorter they are, the less effort you have to put to fix the broken stuff. So the feedback door, actually a couple of years ago, Jürgen, while speaking on ALE or some other conference, he introduced this feedback door for his sessions, which made me think about the Finnish culture. And what I've accidentally did at work was that I was trying to make Finnish people talk more. They were not really willing to talk to each other. They were not willing to give feedback. They were too shy and too scary and not the talkative culture anyway. So having the retrospective every 2 weeks didn't seem being like short feedback loop enough. So I wanted it to be more frequent and like super small, easy to fix. So I copied Jürgen's idea. I asked them, while leaving the work every day, to put the points, as many as they want, on the door. Points, I mean not the numbers, but the notes, with how their day went. If their day went good, fine. Say like thank you to these guys. Say like, yeah, this Antti was awesome, he brought me coffee. And like, Matthias was horrible because like he said something rude to me. But the point is that within time, people learn to share more and more stuff. Some of them were funny things, not really work-related, but some of them were really impediments. In a way, impediments which they wouldn't maybe mention during the daily stand-up, or which would appear later during the day, or somehow get forgotten, or just like some little annoying things about, I don't know, they are like other teams they work with or something. And what happened? Not only we used that for retrospectives, but business people who were popping in and out, like coming to talk to us from now and then, they started reading this feedback door. They were just stopping and reading. And like without even like aiming for it, what we achieved, that business people started to be like super involved in our problems. And without even us asking for that, they were just picking the stickers and fixing them. And then at the end of the iteration, we saw that, okay, there is less and less stickers appearing, because every evening, like Tommy Dude comes and picks up his stickers, next day he acts on that. Also the team members, they were asked to review the post-its the next morning they come and act on the colleague like complaints basically. If they can, they have to act. That kind of makes our team life better and like experience and communication better. And like within a couple of iterations, they actually didn't need to anymore put the post-it on the door. They started to talk. So basically my goal was achieved. They were giving feedback to each other, but also like business people were super happy because maybe they were too shy to tell some things, or maybe like they didn't have time or were forgetting, but like it was like this both angles kind of communication map, and it was successful. So this is just one tool and one way, but it's so easy to implement, doesn't cost anything. Just think about fun like ideas which are easy for people to make happen, and maybe that somehow helps to be more transparent. So yeah, another good point, it was Jeremy Walker a couple of weeks back on Frozen Rails. He was talking about like startup mentality and working too hard. So basically it won't make you more productive, it will break you. And that made me think about the time when I was moving from Lithuania to Finland. So I was used to work these horrible overtime hours, and I felt bad if I didn't, because it was not like my working time and then my like private respected life, but it was more or less my commitment, my personal commitment, feeling some like invisible pushing from the outside that you have to get this done, otherwise that would be like some sneaky looks or something. And the more people I spoke with, the more people were telling me the same thing, that yeah, this overtime, we are not that productive, but we just come because we feel guilty, and then we spend our Saturdays at work. Luckily, there are good people to like communicate with and like have fun, but still, you could have done something else, like why? Then I moved to Finland. I come there, and the first thing I think, of course, like I was not like complaining, I was pretty happy with my like lifestyle, working overtime, fine, if I have to, fine, it's like I like the stuff I do. So, then I come there, and people are so slow. Like, I sit there, I remember, like, the first month, I was sitting and thinking, like, will these dudes ever get anything done? Like, they're so slow. What are these old talks? Can't we just like, go and do stuff? Like, and I was like this little mother, and they were laughing from me. Then, of course, like, if I was like, motoring around too much during the day and feeling that I haven't done my stuff, I was like maybe spending an hour or another an hour more and like getting my stuff done, being happy. It was my personal commitment. No one ever asked me. Then after a while I realized that, personal time is valued here. Like dudes, if you come there with a little flu, they will just send you home and say like, okay, take care of yourself and respect others. Don't bring the flu to the house. Like, it's better to have one sick person than all the team being sick. Like, nothing will, like, break or no one will die if you don't come to work. So this work culture is a really interesting thing because, like, respect people, respect their free time, their, like, family life, their hobbies. Let them relax. They will be super productive the next day. They can make maybe more stuff in 5 hours being, like, happy than in 10 hours sitting and being forced to do that stuff. Like, be a smart leaders.
And of course, build excellent user experience based on all this like tools that you can, prototyping, sketching, the business canvas. So all that is meant to be used to create the great user experience.
Wait. So basically, user experience should like drive your business. Because if you think about it, say what? Say laptops, TVs, 25.
No, it's more.
Phones, feature set is kind of similar. What we choose the product from is like the design. So like, remember that someone is actually using your product and build awesome user experiences. So, and yeah.
So people do awesome when they're not afraid. So create a culture where people are not afraid.
So, yeah, that was us. Follow us on Twitter. And now we would also like to have like little advertisement time. So, Webshaped is the conference for design and development, which is done by us once we got bored with all agile stuff. And Rails Girls is the workshop for girls to learn Rails. Learn more, do it in Vilnius. And yeah, thank you.